All right, so you've been digging into Ritalin, and you've sent over a bunch of stuff actually about its connection to weight. And it seems like the big question everyone's got is, does Ritalin actually cause weight loss?
Yeah, you've definitely hit a hot topic there.
Let's really break this down and figure out what's going on.
Sounds good. We're talking about Ritalin, also known as methylphenidate. And just so we're all on the same page, it's a central nervous system stimulant primarily used to treat ADHD and narcolepsy.
Right, and it's not specifically designed for weight loss, but it can have effects that impact body weight.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we're going to really explore here in detail.
Perfect. So the aim of this whole deep dive is to go through all this material you sent over, get to the heart of it, and give you a crystal clear picture of Ritalin's relationship with weight.
I like it.
We'll cover if it does lead to weight loss, how much weight people typically see changes in, how it affects appetite and metabolism, the kind of surprising possibility of weight gain,
Right.
and if there's anything specific to women, plus what happens in the long term.
You know, it's interesting because a lot of people might think, oh, Ritalin, it's stimulant, it's automatically going to make you lose weight. But it's not that simple.
It's more nuanced.
Much more.
Yeah.
People's bodies can react in quite different ways.
So let's get straight to it. Does Ritalin cause weight loss?
Okay, so often, yes, particularly in the short term, at least from what we're seeing in the research. See, Ritalin boosts the activity of two neurotransmitters in the brain, dopamine and norepinephrine.
Oh.
And these neurotransmitters, they actually help regulate hunger. So when their levels increase, you get fewer hunger signals. You basically feel less hungry.
So it's like messing with those little signals in our brain that tell us to go grab a snack.
You got it. And it's not only about appetite either. Ritalin can also slightly rev up your metabolism, meaning your body might burn a tad more calories even when you're just chilling. And for those with ADHD, it can help with impulse control. And, that includes those impulsive eating habits some people experience.
Makes sense.
So there have been clinical studies, and they've shown that in the initial stages of using Ritalin, especially in kids with ADHD, weight loss is a pretty common thing.
Okay, so it's well documented, especially in children. What about adults taking Ritalin? Is it the same deal?
Well, not necessarily. Adults can experience that initial decrease in appetite too, and maybe lose some weight. But the human body is a master adapter.
It always finds a way.
It really does. So over time, it can adjust to the medication being there, and that appetite suppression might not be as strong anymore. What we've seen is that some adults don't see much weight change at all with continued use, and some even gain weight, which we'll talk about a bit later.
So it's not like a guaranteed outcome, even at the start.
Right.
Seems like each person's body reacts in its own way.
Absolutely. The dosage you're on, your individual metabolism, your overall lifestyle, what you eat, how active you are, all these things play a role in how Ritalin affects your weight.
So how much weight are we talking about here? Are there any general ranges or averages that your research points to?
Well, studies on kids with ADHD have shown that some kids lose around 3 to 5% of their body weight within the first few months of taking Ritalin.
Okay, so that's a noticeable difference, especially for a child.
It is. Now, for adults, it's a bit trickier, but some people have reported losing something like 5 to 10 pounds in that first month, and it seems to be mainly tied to that reduced appetite. But here's the thing, a lot of people who use Ritalin for a long time end up regaining at least some of that weight as their body gets used to the medication.
It finds its balance again.
Exactly. And you included some real-world experiences in the research, which I think is super valuable.
Yeah, people's personal experiences can be so illuminating.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it really shows how different the effects can be. For example, one person said, I lost 8 pounds in the first month, but then it kind of leveled out after about 3 months.
Yeah.
So you see that initial drop and then things stabilize. Then another person said, I didn't actually lose any weight, but my focus was way better and I wasn't snacking as much out of impulse. So it's not always about the number on the scale.
Yeah, it's about those other benefits.
Exactly. And then there was one that really surprised me. Someone said, I actually gained weight. The Ritalin made me crave sugary stuff.
Wow, that is surprising.
It is. It's not super common, but it's definitely something we need to understand better.
So it seems like the takeaway here is that weight loss is most likely to happen early on, but it's not a given, and it might not last.
You got it. And this brings us to something that might catch some people off guard. The possibility of actually gaining weight on Ritalin.
Wait, gaining weight on a stimulant, how does that even work?
There are a few possible reasons. One is what we call rebound hunger. After the medication wears off, some people get super hungry,
Oh, I see.
and this can lead to overeating, especially later in the day. Another factor could be increased cravings for calorie-dense foods. Like we heard in that user report, some people get hit with a serious sweet tooth.
Yeah.
This might have something to do with how Ritalin affects dopamine and the reward pathways in the brain that are tied to food.
Interesting. So it's like their brain is trying to make up for something when the medication fades.
That's one way to look at it. There's also the idea of metabolic adaptation. Basically, over time, the body might adjust its metabolism because of the medication, and it could become better at storing energy.
Oh, wow.
And especially for women, changes in hormone levels could also play a role in weight gain.
Okay, you mentioned hormonal changes specifically in women. Can you tell us more about that? Are there any side effects or weight-related concerns that are unique to women taking Ritalin?
It seems like there are. Women might experience some interactions between Ritalin and their natural hormone cycles, potentially affecting estrogen and progesterone levels. And these hormonal fluctuations can really mess with appetite and metabolism. On top of that, some women report feeling more anxious as a side effect of Ritalin, which can sadly lead to stress eating.
Oh, no.
And then, we have the natural appetite swings during the menstrual cycle, which adds another layer of complexity when you throw Ritalin into the mix.
So many factors at play.
Right. So some women might lose weight initially, but then struggle with gaining it back. Others might not lose anything at all, or even see an increase in fat storage, maybe because of higher cortisol levels from stress and anxiety.
So what's the advice for women taking Ritalin who are worried about their weight?
The main thing is to really tune into their bodies and track their mood, how hungry they feel, and their weight on a regular basis, ideally every month. This can help them spot any patterns or connections that might be related to their medication cycle or other things going on.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the weight side of things, but let's take a step back. For someone with ADHD, which is why Ritalin is prescribed in the first place, what is it actually supposed to do? What are the therapeutic effects?
For people with ADHD, Ritalin can make a huge difference in how they function day to day. It helps them focus better, concentrate longer, and reduce those impulsive behaviors, which we know can include impulsive eating. It can even help with emotional regulation.
And how do these benefits connect with the metabolic and weight changes we've been talking about?
Well, in the short term, that appetite suppression often leads to weight loss. But like we've seen, the long-term effects on weight can even out or reverse as the body adjusts. There's also this link between ADHD and binge eating disorder, or BED. For some people with ADHD who also struggle with BED, Ritalin's ability to curb impulsivity can help ease those intense cravings, which might lead to weight loss in those specific cases.
Right, so tackling the root cause of those cravings can have a really positive knock-on effect on eating habits for some.
Okay, this is a really important question, and I know some people might be wondering about this. If someone takes more Ritalin than they're supposed to, will it make them lose weight faster?
We need to be crystal clear about this. Absolutely not. Misusing Ritalin to try to lose weight is extremely dangerous.
Yeah.
Taking more than your prescribed dose seriously increases your risk of some nasty side effects, like heightened anxiety, trouble sleeping, and even heart problems, which can be really dangerous.
And it's not even a smart or sustainable approach for weight management, is it?
Not at all. Your body tends to build up a tolerance to Ritalin pretty quickly. So even if someone did lose some weight at first by taking a higher dose, that effect would likely fade over time. Plus, misusing Ritalin comes with a big risk of becoming dependent on it and going through withdrawal if you stop suddenly. The bottom line is never, ever take more than your doctor has prescribed in an attempt to lose weight. It's unsafe and just not effective in the long run. That's a message we need to hammer home. All right, let's circle back to the science a bit. Why does Ritalin cause weight loss in some people? What's happening in the body?
The main mechanisms are, firstly, that appetite suppression we keep talking about. This is linked to how Ritalin affects dopamine in the brain, making you feel less hungry. Then there's a slight increase in energy expenditure, a little bump in your metabolic rate. And for those with ADHD, because it helps with impulse control, it can cut down on those times when you overeat because of emotions or just on impulse.
So if those are the main ways it works, why doesn't everyone who takes it lose weight? Why are people's experiences so different?
There are a few reasons. Genetics plays a part. How fast or efficiently your body breaks down the drug can vary. People also have different sensitivities in their dopamine receptors, meaning their bodies might react differently to the same amount of dopamine. And of course, there's lifestyle, diet, exercise, sleep. Those things always interact with how a medication affects your weight.
It's such a complex web of factors, isn't it?
It really is.
Okay, let's talk long-term again. We've seen that some people lose weight initially, but what happens after months or even years of being on Ritalin? Does it keep affecting weight in a big way?
There seems to be a general pattern. In the first 1 to 3 months, you often see weight loss because of that initial appetite suppression. Then, between 3 and 6 months, weight tends to level off, and some people might gain back a little bit of what they lost. After a year or more of consistent use, a lot of people find their weight goes back to about where it was before they started Ritalin.
It's like the body is trying to hit a reset button.
Almost. It's like it's trying to find its natural balance again.
So, for those who do lose weight at first, are there any ways to prevent gaining it back over time?
There are some things that can help. Eating meals with lots of protein, especially earlier in the day before that appetite suppression wears off, can make you feel fuller for longer. It's also a good idea to avoid late-night snacking, especially those binge-eating episodes that can happen when the medication's effects have worn down. And, like always, regular exercise is super important for keeping your metabolism running smoothly.
Good, practical advice. To wrap things up, let's talk about Ritalin's effects on the body in general, beyond just weight changes.
Sure. The immediate effects usually include that feeling of being more alert and less hungry, which we've covered already. But as the medication starts to wear off, some people experience what they call a crash, and that can come with a sudden surge in appetite. Long-term, your body can build up a tolerance to some of the drug's effects, and like we touched on, there can be changes in your metabolism as your body gets used to Ritalin being there.
And to bring it back to weight one last time, what's the typical journey someone might go on with their weight while taking Ritalin?
The most common thing is probably some weight loss in those first few weeks, mainly because of the appetite decrease. But as time goes on, many people will see their weight stabilize or even gain some back over the following months. It really shows how complex our internal systems are, how they try to keep things balanced.
It's fascinating. Okay, let's sum up all this great info for you, our listener. We've gone deep into the research you sent over, and here's the gist of it when it comes to Ritalin and its effects on weight.
Basically, while Ritalin can cause short-term weight loss for some, mainly because it suppresses appetite, the long-term effects are much more varied.
Right.
You can see stable weight, or you might gain some weight, depending on the person.
And we cannot stress this enough. Misusing Ritalin to try to lose weight is not only potentially dangerous, it's not a good long-term strategy.
Exactly. It's important to think about who might consider Ritalin in the context of weight. It's mainly those folks with ADHD who are also dealing with binge eating disorder, and even then, only under the careful watch of a doctor. It's definitely not meant to be a weight loss tool for the general public.
And who should absolutely stay away from using Ritalin for weight loss?
Anyone who hasn't been diagnosed with ADHD would be putting themselves at risk of side effects without getting the benefits the drug is intended for. Also, people with heart conditions or a history of eating disorders should absolutely avoid Ritalin for weight management because of the potential health risks.
So, as you're taking all this in, remember that the connection between Ritalin and weight is complicated and very individual. There's no simple answer. And the long-term effects can be quite different from what you see at first. It makes you think about how medications interact with our bodies in such unique ways and how important our lifestyle choices are for our overall health. It's amazing to think about those specific pathways in the brain that control both our appetite and how stimulants affect us, isn't it? I wonder if digging deeper into those could give us even more clues about this whole complex relationship.
That's a great point. There's always more to learn.
That's for sure. Thanks for tuning in.
See you next time.